I do have some, quite some not good news. My grandmother passed last week, and it's been really hard to act like everything is normal and get back to work and get back into the grind of things. And I just haven't felt like myself, so that's why there was no stream last week, was because of the funeral. And while I'm late on New World, because they actually announced on the day that my grandmother passed. So let's see what New World has to do for us. If you can't hear the music, let me know. I don't want the music over me. But I do want some music so that we have some background stuff. But apparently New World has updated. The devs did let me know, but like I said, I was dealing with some family stuff. So they apparently did an update on some crafting, which I know that was a big issue back in the preview. And they did some updates on the Gathering, which goes hand in hand. Which, yes, it is essential for surviving in Atrium. And they said that there are highlights of these changes below, but that they also gave this information out on the patch over in the detailed release notes, which we'll go over here in a few minutes. But they did go over their vision, which is good. They want crafting and gathering to feel more meaningful in life, which if you're living in Atrium, that would be your thing. So that makes total sense. They have 3 pillars that they are driving their vision on. Gathering and crafting need to have a value, which I do agree. They do need a value. And possibilities should be as broad as they are deep, and the progression should feel rewarding and not hindering. Yes, thank you, devs. I love the last one. Progress should feel rewarding and not hindering, because I feel like there has been a lot of hindering whenever I was playing in the preview. They are still in alpha, so there is no actual gameplay or anything. I do know that they released some videos of their crafting and everything, but I was not available to help them with that. And so they say, you know, for the gathering and crafting, for a tangible value, whether you are crafting food and weapons to help in your adventures, or you fancy yourself as a savvy merchant. Ooh, I didn't think about it that way. Looking to make your fortune in the player-driven markets of Atrium, we want the act of gathering and crafting to be fun and valuable for both the brand new and the veteran players alike. So I love that they are seeming to be able to open to both the new players as adventurers and those veterans, along with the savvy merchants. So I see myself as, I don't know when it comes out if I would want to be just the adventurous type, or if I would want to dip my hands into being a savvy merchant. That does ring a bell. It has a good ting to it, a savvy merchant. But that's a good thing of it has a value, so you're able to sell your items on the markets and everything. So the second thing, the possibility should be as broad as they are deep, which is great because Atrium is a huge island. with materials that range from the mystical to the mundane. We want our players to have many different choices as possible while crafting items and consumables, and those choices should matter. So I do see that they are spreading out their webs of developing the game under a mystical as an often mundane possibility. The mundane being me dying to a mob every time. I would love to see some people I would hate it, but I would love to see memes of my character dying over and over and over again in Atrium. That would be funny to watch in these sad times. And then the last one is that the progress should feel rewarding and not hindering. I love that because it felt so hindering back in the preview time. So it's and I love the way that they word some things. A person who picks up a frying pan for the first time won't have the knowledge or skill to make a worthy meal of make a meal worthy of a governor, unlike the chef who has 20 years experience under his belt. I do agree. I mean, this goes for, you know, people out in the workforce. If you are looking for a job, they do require some experience, but those that are wanting to get people for those jobs, you do have to let those people that unfortunately does not have the knowledge or the skills to be able to wet their feet. I have always said that during my interviews of, even though I don't have the skill or the experience behind it, I have the knowledge and some new tactics, possibly. So we want players to have results that demonstrate their commitment and time invested in their skills. I'm loving that. I'm loving that. I'm loving that. So, oh, they have majorly changed everything since the last time I played. So, let me see if I can't make that bigger. I'm sorry, guys. So, it looks like it says that it tells you the type of metals, which is a primary thing. Then you have the refined wood, which is a glittering ebony. And then leathers, which is a runic leather. And then a special item added, which is a pristine whetstone. And then azoth, of course, to be able to build this item. And it is the Archutulum Great Axe. I probably botched that. And I don't care that I botched it. Note the in-game UI is in the process of localization during testing. So this is not the final version of the product. I love that they do give us versions out here. And they do give us some previous changes that they have made. So we're slowly introducing changes to the gathering and crafting since November. They've been working on this whole thing since November and finally leading up to their January update. So since November, they have gotten a lot of feedback for their gathering and crafting needs. And I did express this during the preview. With this release, the gathering and crafting system you may have experienced during the preview has been overhauled completely. Whoa. I'm gonna be lost in Atrium whenever I come in, since preview. So the crafting station's appearance. We want settlements to show their progression as they grow and develop. In November, we added visual improvements to the crafting stations when they were upgraded. So I'm wondering if that means that since the preview, if they will show, like, if it is like a level 1 cooking station, if it naturally progresses up the tiers. I don't know how many tiers it has. I think I heard it was like 5 during the preview, but I'm wondering if they're adding more tiers to be able to let those veteran players be able to craft further items, which would be awesome. The improved inventory organization. Ooh, I wanted my inventory organized since preview. So, based on player feedback, the inventory and storage screens have improved organization so that you can find your items quicker. Do they have a search menu? I want to know, because it was very, very hard having to scroll through all of the storage, not only in the particular settlement that you were in, let alone the bag storage that you had on your player. So, devs, if you can answer that question for me, I would appreciate it, because I would love to be able to search, like, one item I had to keep turning around and going back for was briar branches. So if I could just start typing in briar, if it would pop up, that would be awesome. Additions of resources and materials to improve the outcome of your crafted items. We have increased the amount of items available to use in the crafting system. Items with levels associated with them, such as crafting reagents, are now found in level appropriate areas, making gathering more predictable. Ooh, okay. So that means that as you progress with the levels as you are a player, then you are going to find more and more items that those that do not have your levels would not be able to find. Ooh. Ooh. I don't know how, I don't know if I like that or if I don't. That's one of them of, I don't know. Let's continue. Granular unlocks the tracking and skinning and the lodging trade skills. A previous version of the tracking and skinning skill didn't feel like it had much meaning until players were somewhat around mid-game. I do remember that, because it was like, well, I can skin a wolf, but what's the use in skinning a wolf compared to skinning a boar? They were different levels for the skinning requirements, but if it was me, I'd rather go with a boar, because the boar is not going to fight back, unlike the wolf, who is going to kick my butt at the time. And I really didn't get very much mid or end game things there. So it says we wanted to make an update to that so that players had consistent feedback on where they were in the skill in relation to their character level and other crafting and gathering abilities. So we added more differentiation, ooh, that's a hard word, to how creatures are unlocked via the tracking and skinning skill. So does that mean that if I'm like level 5, I can't skin a wolf at that time? Because I tried that so many times, and I got killed so many times. So lodging, which had a similar challenge, has been changed the same way. Leveling up lodging will now unlock your ability to collect more types of wood. So I'm trying to think back in August and September when we had the preview, how many different types of wood we had. I think we only had one. It was called wood. I think it was one. So does that mean that now we're gonna have like birch wood, we're gonna have like briar branches? Because I think briar branches, parts of them would turn into wood whenever you were not in the quest. But then what about the saplings that you would find? And the big trees that were like... I don't know. That's a good question. I wish I had ability to talk to the devs, but unfortunately I don't. So, the last item. Containers now only hold items that can't be harvested from the world. Dang it. I wanted to be able to go get my squash without having to pick it. Gone are the days of finding corn and carrots in lootable containers. It is if something that can be found within the world, it will not be found in the container. So the containers will be more reliable valuables. Ooh. So you mean I can't go and find like a meager meal in a crate anymore? I loved finding a meager meal in the crate because I had already looted that crate before. Devs. No. I want that back. But I'm wondering what more meaningful items are what they're saying. More reliable valuables. So it looks like we have here a forged tier 5. Select your leather. Ooh. So I do know that during the preview they had like different types of leather. I want to say it was like right off of the animal, and then this was like rugged leather, and then this was like reinforced leather, I want to say, and then they had like another tier. They only had 3 that you could craft. Okay, so they're actually expanding it more. But let's go ahead and get into the January updates, because all of these updates have actually been happening since November. So, the January updates. Materials and resources now display their rarity. One of the changes that goes hand in hand with something we talked about earlier in this post, the addition of new material tiers, is that there are many resources and materials in the world now, some of which are harder to find than others. Item rarity is now displayed on each item's tool tip, making it easier to tell when you've made an extra valuable find. So I do know that we had like rarities during the preview on like weapons and clothing, I want to say, but I don't think we had it on materials and resources that we found. So does that mean that if I find like, I don't know, a rare crystal or a rare rock, that I could actually make something of either rare or more value? That's another I want to know. Categorical ingredients can be used in recipes. In certain recipes, you'll now see that you can use categorical ingredients rather than specific ones. For example, a cooking recipe may call for a vegetable rather than specifically carrots, allowing the player to use any ingredient classified as a vegetable, carrot or otherwise, which opens up the options you have as you're crafting those recipes. Ooh. So if I would be like making, I guess like a soup or something, it would just say vegetable. Okay. Because I hated having to be like, I don't have corn, or I don't have squash, or I don't have carrots, and having to go back and go and get them. I really hated that. A, because I would die, and B, because was it really worth it? No. Okay, so another thing they have is there are more recipes than ever before. So they have actually opened up to more and more recipes than we had in the preview. To go along with all the new materials and resources, there have been a dramatic increase in the number of recipes you can now craft. From the addition of named weapons and armor pieces to a massive selection of foods, there are now far more choices for players who want to craft items, along with adding depth to the system overall. This should help crafting find its place in in-game play. So instead of having, like, I guess, 5 items you could craft at the camp, does that mean that you can craft, like, 40? That'd be nice. You have new ways to make things. You have new ways to make things. Okay. I want to make sure I read that right. I'm like, wait a minute. Some items you can craft have very specific recipes, while others are flexible with what materials and resources you can use in them. For example, when crafting a steel sword, you can choose to use a higher tier or rarity of wood or leather components than the recipe calls for. But if I use a higher tier or a rarity, does it increase the chance that that could be a higher tier of a weapon? I don't know. There are even special resources like animal horns, fey iron, that can be used in place of other resources if you find them. Using these higher tier or rarity resources will affect the power of the item that is made. Animal horns? What horns are we gonna get off of animals? The only animals that I knew that had horns at the time of preview was bison. And I think elk. No, elk had antlers. So is there anything other than bison that have horns? That's a good question too. I have so many questions for the devs. Trading skill progression has changed. We mentioned earlier that the lodging and tracking and scanning skills unlocks have been updated. In this release, all of the trade skill progression has been refined to a cap out of 200. I'm guessing that's level 200, which will bring consistency across the different crafting and gathering trees. Okay. But looking ahead, we want crafting to be an interesting, engaging part of the New World experience that remains valuable to players all the way through our end game. Data from the alpha test as well as the feedback from the testers themselves will be studied closely, and tuning will be done to the systems to better realize our vision for crafting within New World. As development continues, we will keep you updated on our social channels and website with future updates. So it looks like they're still gathering more information from the testers along with the feedback from alpha test. Wait a minute. They're still in alpha, so I don't know what they mean by that. But they're still improving the game. So let's go ahead and look into this crafting. Crafting updates a new weapon. Oh, they have a new weapon. Please be a great sword. I want a great sword. That's all I want, is a great sword. Honing of the craft. Greeting adventurers. Welcome to the new month of updates for the New World Alpha. This month brings a lot of changes to our crafting system aimed at giving it immersive depth and meaningful impact on gameplay. Whether you're gathering items as you run around the world slaying corrupted, or you're the merchant master of Brightwood, these changes will make the world of Atrium feel more rewarding and user-friendly. I'm hoping it's the last one. User-friendly. have a new spotlight of a new weapon. A rapier. We introduce a new melee weapon. Great. Another melee weapon that excels at quick piercing attacks. The rapier attacks the scale off of a character's dexterity score. Adventurers will be able to progress 2 mastery trees. The blood weapon mastery tree focuses on applying stacks of the bleed status effects to enemies, then popping those stacks for big damage with flourish and finish. The grace weapon mastery tree focuses on evasion, counterattacking, and talented blade work with the rapier. The rapier will have 2 crafted weapon perks specific to its addition to the perks that are broadly applicable to other weapons. Let's take a look and see what those look like. Ooh! Okay. All I see right now is that spear that skeleton person has. Cool. And of course you have to have a legendary quest for it. Of course. You can go on an epic quest for the legendary rapier Frozen Lament. Level 60 adventurers can speak to Ranger Hirth. Yeah, Hirth. Devs, you're cutting me. I can't even say these names sometimes. In Mountain Rise Outpost and Shattered Mountain to begin the quest. Recover the components needed to create the frozen laminates, then deliver them to Ranger Medikite in Mountain Home. Who are these people? So let's take a look at the rapier sword. It looks like a sword. I was hoping it would be the great sword, but apparently not. But it does look like a fencing sword to compare it to. So it sort of does look like that they have what is considered a fencing trying to think action to this. So I'm wondering if that would be the blood weapon mastery tree. Then popping the stacks for big damage with the flourish and finish. Yeah, I think that's what it is. So they did some of the crafting changes. We did talk about it a little bit earlier. But here's a little bit more of a breakdown because this is from the alpha notes. So we've made major changes to increase the number of items players can craft. Well, did you make our storage bigger? And added additional functionality to the crafting system. The main goal for these changes is to keep crafting and gathering relevant through endgame with adding more depth, a new interface, and more interesting choices in the crafting system. So we did look at this a little bit earlier. Now that I've got a little bit more understanding of the crafting, it looks like you I don't know if like the orange tint behind those items mean if they're of a higher or lower rarity than what is required for that item to be made. That's another thing I'm wanting to know. And then the crafting mechanics, we have added new items that can be crafted for most trade skills. These items start at tier 2 and go up to tier 5 with the goal of making crafting more relevant in the end game. Man, it only goes up to tier 5? Okay. Because that was how it was during preview. They introduced a variety of rare resources and ingredients that will be required to craft named items. Some of these rare ingredients can also be used in procedural crafting to gain gear score bonuses. Ooh, I like that. They introduced categorical ingredients that allow players to use different types of ingredients rather than a specific one. This will make it easier to craft various items currently used for repair kits, certain cooking recipes, and procedural crafting. So can we craft repair kits? Is that what it's hinting at? We can craft repair kits? Huh. I'll have to see. Because if that's the case, I'd rather craft repair kits than salvage items. They overhauled the procedural crafting system to give players more control and flexibility over custom crafting. Players can now invest different levels of Azoth while crafting. The more Azoth you invest, the more bonuses you have a chance to add to your resulting craft. No capping of the Azoth. Yes! Players can now use the higher or lower tier materials within the same type, different tiers of wood when crafting a sword, to increase or decrease the gear score outcome. The procedural craft can also result in named items if the result is statistically identical to a named item in the game. Can I name my own item? I would love to name my own item. Added new ways to unlock recipes. Artifact recipes will allow players to craft a single item of that recipe. Recipe schematics will allow players to permanently unlock a recipe. Does that mean I have to go out here to all these places in Atrium and unlock recipes now? No, I don't want to. All trade skills now cap at 200 to unify gathering, refining, and crafting progression. Oh no. Okay. So it looks like on here, the energizing hearty meal consists of a cooked meat, cooked vegetables, cooked grains, cooked fruit, herbs, spices, and seasoning. And it looks like they selected prime red meat. I don't think that was in the game. I think we only had red meat. They chose cauliflower, wheat, lemon, and basil. I don't know if we had basil. It's been so long ago. New Gear Mechanisms Part 1. Is there a Part 2? We've introduced over 100 new named weapons and 50 new named armor pieces. These items all have unique names, stats, and backstories. We will continue to build out these gear rewards and assign them to game activities and named characters. So you mean we're having a history of the weapon or the armor? Ooh. I like backstories. Updated repair mechanism. So now when an item reaches 0 durability, it will have significantly reduced performance. Half gear score, no perks. But it will still be usable and no longer automatically unequips. Huh? And it introduced a new repair system. A new repair kit item with 4 tiers. Repair kits will repair any item of a corresponding tier. Add a repair kit recipe to any crafting trade skills. Added a repair kit recipe to many crafting trade skills. This is a great way for crafters to package and sell extra repair kits and repair parts. Yes! Yes! I will definitely be buying repair parts. I will go broke purchasing repair parts. If I don't have to go and salvage things my own. Food mechanics have changed. There are now 2 types of food. Buff food and recovery food. Okay. Recovery food will provide quick HP recovery that is intended for out-of-combat HP recovery plus long-term slow HP recovery buff. Buff foods will provide a gameplay buff and the long-term slow health recovery, but not the immediate recovery. Added food items that will buff a variety of attribute combinations. Buffs from food now persist through death. So you no longer need to reapply your food buffs each time you die. Other buffs are still purged on death though. Okay. Okay. Remove the warding foods. This functionality will be replaced with potions in a future update. I don't remember warding foods. Devs, what are the warding foods that you removed? Crafting and refining bonus foods unlocked starting at tier 3. Gathering foods at tier 1. Okay, so everyone starts with tier 1, right? I hope. Because if not, how am I going to gather food? Combat. The elite enemy system. We're continuing to build on the system to make elite and champion enemies more challenging and change up their gameplay. No. All named enemies above level 15 now utilize the elite enemy system. Each elite enemy will have 1 to 3 affixes applied, which change their attacks and characteristics depending on their difficulty and level. No. Dynamic mesh and scaling. We scaled up the visual model of various enemy families and enemies within those families to offer more visual diversity to enemies. Larger enemies will also have larger hitboxes. Yes! No more getting attacked by a titan and having a small hitbox. Thank you. Maybe I won't die as often. Ooh! We have an ice giant. Right? Huh. AI combat updates part 1. Adjusted the enemy AI of drowned sailors, withered regurgitators, corrupted swordsmen, and corrupted spearmen to also use the combat system updates introduced in the December update. We'll continue to roll out these updates to all enemies. Differentiated enemy light attacks and heavy attacks. Heavy attacks have grit, longer tails, and can cause staggers and significant damage. light attacks do low damage, have quicker cast items, and don't cause a stagger. Adjusted how enemies select their attacks. Added cooldowns to heavy attacks to mimic the cooldown timers on the player's abilities. Thank you. Love that. Because they should have a cooldown too, if I do. Increase the difficulty of AI when players fight enemies well above their level. Which I'm not going to be doing. Enemies get more armor and damage the higher their level is versus the player. Armor buffs begin at level 3 over the player, and damage buffs begin at level 5. At 5 levels. Enemies levels 6 higher or more than the player will outright kill the player instead of placing players in death's door. Okay. Level 6, got it. Kills me instantly. Got it. Level 6, enemies level 6 higher or more than the player have an increased precipitation range of plus 10 meters. Enemies level 10 higher or more than the player do not get staggered by the player. No. No. I don't like that. Undo the AI combat updates, please, devs. They were already enough. Combat system updates reduce the number of weapons a player can equip from 3 to 2. Note your second weapon slot still unlocks at level 5 as before. Oh. So I can't have my sword and my hammer and my bow anymore? No! I mean, it makes sense, but... Players can now move during ranged attack animations. Ooh. So, if I'm using my bow, I can still move. Good. I'm not a sitting duck anymore. Adjusted ranged attack cancels to ensure they offer as much flexibility as the melee attack updates in the December update. Updated grit breaking to make it more apparent to players. Okay, having grit broken down triggers a visual reaction. Added a new grit break sound effect to better highlight when a player's grit is broken. Okay, I like that. Updated combat networking in a continuing effort to improve how combat functions. Added hit detection logic to add a brief delay before attack hits are confirmed to better detect hits versus block and damage. Yes! I love it. Balance. The Warhammer got removed grit from heavy attack startup. Dang it. No more Warhammer for me. Bow. Rain of arrows significantly reduce the amount of time the attacker is locked into attack animation. Okay, I like that. Life Staff. Reduce the startup frames on light attacks. Ooh, I like that too. And the Fire Staff. Reduce the startup frames on light attacks. Okay, I might go into the Life and Fire Staff place now. I mean, it makes more sense. The UX and the UI updates. Questing and progression. Settlement updates. We have settlement updates? Apparently. Visual variety has been added to Pacific settlements. Now all settlements have a unique layout. Why? I don't want to have to learn each settlement and its layout. Give me a map. Like, print me out a map. I hate having to bring up the map and figure out where I'm going. Haven't you learned I can't read a map? Crafting stations now visually upgrade with each new tier, making it easier for players to visually distinguish the levels of each settlement's various stations. Okay. I like that, because you would go from one settlement to another in the preview, and it wouldn't change. And you didn't know what... Hi! You didn't know what level it was until you got up to it and you saw it was like tier 3 and you needed a tier 4 station. I like that. So let's see what the updates look like. Okay, so that's tier 1, tier 2, 3, 4. Where's 5? Or does it start at tier 2? But I do like to see how it changes. So that if you're running by, you can be like, oh, that's a tier 3. I need to go to another settlement. But then you got to figure out which settlement it is that has that tier 3 station. And if you're like me, you're going to ask people in the chat. Where's such and such tier? So we got another picture of the settlement. Looks like we are in the heart of the settlement, as like what I like to call it, the heart of the settlement, which is where everybody is. So where's this part of the settlement? No, wait a minute. This is outside the settlement. So does that mean if I'm up on a mountain, I can see inside the settlement? I'm thinking. Death Store. Got it. Won't be going to Death Store anytime soon. The top of Death Store. Okay. Quest improvements. Yes! I love quest improvements. The starting experience through the acquisition of Corruption's Bane has had many tweaks and alterations for progression flow. That is a lot of words. But that means that if you did play for the preview, it is changed totally in dumbest terms. All existing quests have had their dialogue updated to improve NPC characterization and enhance quest directives. So does that mean that I don't have to do an English speaking person all the time because they have an English name anymore? I love that. Many zones have restructured their quests for narrative flow and replaced generic looting with new interactable objects. So, what objects? Is this along with a chest, maybe? Group play. I haven't seen anything on group play recently in the last updates since the preview. So, we've updated how group XP functions to make it easier to play in a group. Maybe I'll start playing in a group. As long as a group as a whole does 15% damage to a creature, everyone in the group gets XP and a chance at loot. I like that better because whenever I did do a group damage to a creature, only one person could loot that creature. I like where everyone gets a chance to have the XP and loot. Group members will have to satisfy requirements to get credit though. Performing actions such as damage, heal, blocking the last 2 minutes, and being within a certain distance of the killed creature. Note, ranged characters, fear not. We picked a distance well outside the range of normal attacks. Yes! Because I didn't love being right near a bear and dying with the group. Adjusted the amount of XP that is granted when an enemy is killed by a group. Previously, everyone got full XP. Did they? Now the amount will be adjusted based on the number of groups and number of players in those groups. This change was made within the idea that monsters are easier to defeat while playing with a group. They are easier to defeat if you play with a group. Faction and territory. Ooh. So we haven't had very much information about the faction, but they have been teasing it a little bit on their Twitter, and we'll go to that after this. Adjusted certain values and participation for an upcoming larger feature that will reward both company members and everyone in the faction that owns the territory with some cool new benefits. So you have to be with a company. I'm my own company. Reduce tax savings for company members in a territory they own to 30%. Reduce housing prices savings for company members in a territory they own to 20%. And reduce gathering bonuses for company members in a territory they own to 10%. None of which I will be able to use. Okay, and the screenshots. So it looks like we have a tier 4, 5, Arcania. Looks like tanning, maybe tier 3. Pretty cool. Tier 3 or 4 of cooking. Level 109 cooking. Only one can dream. But it looks like you have a few different options. Starting from level 95 to level 110. Okay. And selected cook meats. Ooh! This says epic! Does that mean that we have an epic tier? I think it does. So a turkey thigh. What's the chance of getting a turkey thigh at an epic level? Probably somewhere that you die more often. And then you have a legendary item. So you have a legendary item, you have an epic item. I think I saw a common. So I wonder if it goes common, uncommon, rare, ultra rare maybe, legendary and an epic maybe. Devs, I'd love to know what the tiers are because you haven't let me know. And then you have special, select special resource. Oh, okay. So these items previously in the preview did not have a meaning. You didn't have a meaning to get boar tusk or animal fangs. Okay. I love that. So we have, oh, I wish it told the rarity of the item, but I guess if you hover over it, it might tell the rarity of the item. Devs, this is a little blurry. But I'm trying to read it as best I could. I mean, I have it blown up. And it's still blurry. But But that looks like it's all for the screenshots. So let's go ahead and take a look at their Twitter. Now, I love these little things that they were talking about of back on the first part of January. Of where your duelist adventure begins. You answer Watcher Reese's request to deliver supplies to Monarch Bluffs as he is offering a sizable amount of gold. After a long quest, you finally make it to town and pass by the tavern. You feel thirsty. What's your next move? I did definitely select that I would go in and grab a drink. You decide to enter the tavern after knocking down just half a pint of ale. On an empty stomach, you find yourself completely inebriated. Why don't you just grab food too? You notice that a couple of martyrs are bothering an innocent yet, very handsome barkeep. What's your next move? There's Captain Thorpe! Captain Thorpe's dead. If you don't know that, go watch my preview. It's on my YouTube channel. You demand satisfaction. So, drunken bar brawling was not a good idea. You lose the fight regardless. Your potential lust interest sticks by and thanks you. Turns out the Martyrs plus crew are well known for bullying citizens all over Atrium. I knew it had to be the Martyr faction. Your rage knows no bounds. What's your next move? Well, it was a training montage. Before you train, you need a trainer. Two onlookers from the Covenant and Syndicate notice your struggle and see an opportunity to defame the Martyr faction. They offer to train you to increase their faction's reputation. Whose side did you choose? I chose the Syndicates. With your mind ready and heart on fire, you push it over the wire. In the name of the Syndicate and love, you fight to survive. But you can see it doesn't. Yes, do those push-ups. And this is where they hinted at that sword. I love that. And where were we? Oh yes, with the training complete under the Syndicate leader's coaching, you revisit the tavern and draw your sword towards the Martyr. The Martyr chuckles, accusing you of being a glutton for punishment. It's your move now. You called me a glutton, dude? Oh no. Flourish and finish. And now for the exciting conclusion. With Flourish and Finish, you've easily vanquished the Martyr by piercing them at their most vulnerable spot. Their ego. Smitten by your bravery, the barkeep asks to see you again for a date. Ooh. Take that, Martyr. Bye-bye. While you were busy flexing and pursuing love in the Atrium, you seem to have forgotten that Watcher Reese is still waiting for his supplies. I'm sorry, Watcher Reese. It's not my fault. The Mortarer made me do it. So everybody, that is the update for New World. I am late on the update, but it is here. So, if you enjoyed this stream or this video, if you're watching it on YouTube, please, please, please make sure to follow me here on Twitch, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and like the video. Leave a comment down below with what other items you would want to see. You would like to see in New World. Maybe the devs will listen. But everybody, have a great day. Have a great night wherever you are in the world. And I will see you guys on my next video. Bye!